Hello everyone, just Goran here and welcome back to another real life zoo tour, the series in which we visit real life zoos to get some Planet Zoo inspiration. And today we are back in the Beekse Bergen. I've been there about 4 times since the last episode and every time there was something new to see at the zoo, but never quite enough to warrant a new video, I thought. This time though, I thought it'd be worth it. Not only are there a couple of new things in the zoo, like new education signs, but the zoo is basically fully open again with almost all corona restrictions lifted. The mandatory walking route is gone, the indoor areas are open, feeding shows are taking place again. And on top of all that, I also got to record the car safari this time. So yeah, all these things I haven't been able to show you before. So without any further ado, let's get inspired. And the first thing I want to show is actually from my last visit, here at the entrance, where we can see this big red arrow telling us that this is the place to be. This arrow is actually part of a campaign by Visit Brabant, which is showcasing a bunch of great destinations that this province has to offer. So the 7,000 kilogram arrow is on a 350 kilometer trip around all of these places, and when I was at the zoo last time we had made it stop here at the Beekse Bergen. So for your Planet Zoo projects you could think about what kind of companies are promoting your zoo and how your zoo capitalizes on that. There's something we notice here at the entrance as well is all of these yellow zomer flags, and zomer is Afrikaans for summer, and this is a temporary event at the zoo with extended opening times, extra food stands, and the entire zoo is being decorated with all these yellow signs and other things that we'll see later. And I just love how much effort got put into this event. It almost makes me want to make a zomerfied version of my Planet Zoo version of the Beekse Bergen. Now, I'm pretty sure that this is the first time I'm showing you all the zoo in this season, spring being just behind us, and I love that I'm able to share this with you because the zoo is filled with color. It's super lush, and yeah, it's just really cool to see all this nature in action. But here we are at the first primate house, and as I said, we haven't been able to see the indoor areas of the zoo yet because up until the 5th of June they were required to be closed due to corona. So let's head inside, and in this house we can see the gorillas and crested mangabe on the right, and the chimpanzees on the left. Now, most of the time the animals get to decide if they want to be outside or not. Only under certain circumstances, like when the keepers need to enter the habitat, are the animals moved to a specific place. Something pretty cool about this house, which I also showed in the last episode of Building the Beekse Bergen, is that there's actually a mesh ceiling above all the indoor areas, where the keepers can walk around, throw down food and that sort of stuff. So after having a little look at the baby crested mangabe Noah, we are heading to the black rhino area. And on the way there, we can actually see a new food stand is being built here. It's called Kalangala, and it's going to be inside of the little building where they used to check your tickets for the car safari. So yeah, it's pretty cool to see that that building is being repurposed now that the entrance of the car safari has moved to a different place. At the Black Rhino area we get to see some new education pillars, and the first one we encounter is for the black rhinos themselves. And the first slide talks about what zoos do to help the populations of rhino in the wild. You can watch some videos about the breeding program or about how rhinos are transported between zoos, and there's also this small game where you have to match rhinos and create the optimal breeding pair. Each combination of rhinos tells you why this is or isn't a good match, and I think it's a really nice way to inform people about the breeding program. I would say it's a bit of a shame that there's only one correct answer. If you pair a young rhino with an older one, you'll get told, oh, it's better to find the old lady a nice rhino grandpa.
Zamani is een lieve vrouw, maar helaas een beetje te oud om nog jongen te krijgen. Laten we maar een gezellige neushoornopa voor haar zoeken.
But then when you actually try to find her an older rhino grandpa and match the 2 oldest ones together, this isn't right either. So that kind of made me think, why tell me to find one if there isn't one? I think it might have been more fun if you had to find a match for each of the rhinos, although that might not work with the current selection. Anyway, enough rambling about it. It's a cool idea. I especially like that they also implemented some fun lines for if you match 2 males or 2 females together.
2 mannen van deze neushoornsoort bij elkaar, dat wordt knokken. Dat lijkt me niet zo verstandig. 2 meisjes bij elkaar is natuurlijk hartstikke gezellig, maar dan worden er helaas geen jonge neushoorns geboren.
And it's just really cool to see all of this interactivity. On this side of the pillar we see some information about black rhino populations in the wild, mainly how much they've declined, as you can see in the graph. And there's also this cool and somewhat depressing map that shows what their range across Africa used to be, and then you can slide on this little panel to see what it has been reduced to. Then on the bottom, some more information about how they're being helped directly in the wild. You can rotate this big disc, which tells you about what kind of equipment the rangers protecting these rhinos in Africa need. It ranges from boots to guns to jeeps and much more. The last side of the pillar shows the amount of rhino currently living in the wild for each of the 5 remaining rhino species. And they are displayed on these little 7-segment displays, which kind of gives you the impression that they might change at any moment, which is a pretty cool design feature, of course. Now, on the topic of black rhinos, today was actually the first time I got to see Hudari outside. He tended to stick a little bit to the corner of the habitat, a bit out of sight. But later in the day he did come up a bit closer, started marking his territory a little bit. So that was really awesome to see. And now we just have to wait for the female to arrive at the zoo, and hopefully we'll be able to see her pretty soon as well. Now, next to Hudari, all the way on the other side of the new area, another one of these education pillars has been added, and this one is about the African wild dog, or the painted dog as they're also called. Just like with the rhino pillar, there is a side about the populations in the wild and one about what zoos are doing to help. So this side talks about how the populations are kept check in the wild, for example by giving the African wild dogs a tracking collar. You're supposed to be able to use this phone to listen to a GPS signal that these collars would give off, but I don't think it's finished just yet. In the future there should be a GPS satellite close by that someone will be able to rotate while someone else listens to the signal of the GPS on the phone. Then when the satellite points towards the habitat, you'll start to hear the beeping on the phone, indicating that you found the painted dogs. This side of the pillar talks about what zoos do for the conservation of this species and what difficulties are encountered when trying to breed them. For example, it's pretty hard to introduce new members to a family due to their dominance hierarchy that is present in the pack. And at the bottom is again a little game that kind of ties into that. Here you learn more about what kind of roles there are in the pack, and you can do this little quiz in which you find out what kind of a pack member you would be if you were to be an African wild dog. Turns out I'm a hunter. The last side of this pillar is all about the differences between hyenas and African wild dogs, as it's very common for people to mix up the two. I too used to think that the Beekse Bergen had 2 hyena habitats right next to each other. Whoops. It wasn't until Planet Zoo introduced me to African wild dogs that I learned that they were a completely different species. So yeah, good sign. It goes into great detail about every aspect of their anatomy.
De gevlekte hyena heeft een hele grote gespierde kop. Dankzij al die spieren kunnen hyena's ontzettend hard bijten. Ze kunnen daarmee zelfs door botten heen bijten. De kop van de Afrikaanse wilde hond is stukken kleiner. Zij kunnen ook heel hard bijten, maar niet zo hard als een hyena.
And you can also hear the sounds that they make. I wanted to try out every button, but I had to flee from a large group of children. Alright, that was it for the new education pillar, so now let's head to the Africa Village area. And in this area things have been transformed for the summer event with new planters, big cushions to sit on or jump on, I guess, if you're a kid. And you can also roast marshmallows here. How lovely. No, I really do have to say I love the vibes I got here. It was, as the Dutch people say, gezellig, just good vibes, and this was the first time I really felt like that since the whole lockdown, so it was really nice seeing this area come to life again like that. Anyway, here we also find the rhino stall, which in the first tour we did of the zoo had the newly born white rhino Ravi inside. Nowadays Ravi can usually be found in the holding area next to the stall. I'm guessing they don't trust him with the rest of the animals out on the big field just yet. All we gotta do is hope his mom doesn't get tired of his shenanigans. The stall itself has since been emptied out of the decorations it received after Ravi was born, though it was being used to store some firewood for the marshmallow making. But yeah, it is a bit better now, though it does provide a good view for when the rhinos are inside, which is often the case during cold winters, and of course that's the most important part. Something else in the Africa Village I'm not sure I've shown you yet is this little viewing area for this aviary. In here I could get a nice glimpse of the spotted thickney, and the red-crested turaco, which was a little camera shy. Now going past the white rhino habitat on our way to the second primate house, we come across the flamingo aviary, and yes, the aviaries are open again. The aviaries weren't closed due to corona, but to prevent the spread of bird flu. This happens almost every year, but it looks like the threat has passed, so we can just slide open this door and head inside. This aviary consists of a large kind of elevated platform that gives you a nice view from above on these wonderfully loud creatures. There is a place for you to sit, although from there you can't really see the flamingo. Now what's pretty cool actually is how these doors close automatically. They're completely powered by gravity. Inside of this big gutter tube, I'm guessing there's some sort of heavy weight which is attached to the door through this wire that runs through a pulley. So when you let go of the door, the weight pulls the door shut. Later this day, one of the doors actually broke. Someone managed to completely derail it, but because I knew how it worked, I was able to get it back in and fix it. So you're welcome, zoo. Just Goron, the handyman at work. Our next destination is the second primate house. It's very similar to the one at the entrance, but green. And speaking of green, just turn around and look at how lush this habitat is. I freaking love it. Anyway, just like the one at the entrance, this house also has the chimpanzees on the left and the gorillas on the right. The gorillas here share their habitat with the colobus monkey. And just like at the entrance, the primates get to choose for themselves if they want to be inside or not. One time I was at the zoo actually, the 16th of June, there was such an event that required them to stay inside. You may or may not have heard, but on that day there was a huge fire at the bungalow park / camping / vacation resort of the Beekse Bergen. It wasn't at the zoo itself or the safari resort, so no animals were even close to being injured, no humans were injured either, nor were any toxic particles released into the air in the end, so there wasn't really a threat, but just as a precaution, all the primates were sent inside. So aside from primates, in this house you can also have a look at the indoor area of the birds in the small aviary that is in front of this house. And this is actually the only place in the zoo guests can have a look at the indoor area of an aviary, so that's pretty special. The birds in this aviary, by the way, are the Von der Decken hornbill, the suburb starling, and the yellow-necked spurfowl. Here at the meerkat habitat, some weird things are going on, but also something I didn't show in the first tour because I got a little distracted by vultures, was this little tunnel over here. You can crawl inside to get a real up-close look at the meerkats, if you're lucky enough for them to actually approach you. And something else I haven't been able to show you in the zoo tours as of yet are the feeding shows. This zoo has several feeding shows, which before were all cancelled to prevent many people from all gathering in one place. But they finally started them again, and I was able to catch a couple of them so far. In this case, the tigers. During the show, the keeper locks the tigers away so she can safely enter the habitat and put some food in the enclosure. Both times I attended, this was a whole chicken per tiger, so I'm guessing that they just always do that on Wednesdays. But other days they might do a chunk of meat or something else entirely. I've heard that occasionally they do tie up some food into the trees, so you can actually see the tigers climb all the way up there to get their food, which is of course nice enrichment and workout for them. You can actually spot the chains where they would attach the food, so I really hope I'll get to see that someday. It does seem like quite a spectacle. Right beside the tigers there is the crocodile and hippo residence, which of course houses the crocodile and the hippo. This house is also home to Vierlot black weavers and dotted mousebirds, as well as walking catfish, which swim around with the crocodiles. As you enter this house, on the left you can see some nice props that are related to the crocodiles, like a crocodile skull, a leg and some eggs. And finally, this was new when I got to the zoo today, probably because they got rid of the mandatory walking route. Finally, the staircase going to the upper level has been open again. Ever since the zoo first closed for Corona, these stairs had been blocked off, but now we can finally head up again and get an aerial view of the crocs, not impeded by glass. Also, you get to see my favorite janky waterfall. And from up here, something I spotted for the first time are some of these hollow logs that probably house the birds that I mentioned. The hippos are all outside, so their indoor area is empty at the moment, which does give you a good chance to see how their pool is built up. Going outside, we walk through this nice lush corridor, get eaten by a crocodile, and end up at the hippo aviary. Probably the aviary with the most birds in the zoo. I mean, look at all these signs. One of my personal favorites in this aviary is the spoonbill. I just love them for their name, especially their Dutch name, which is lepelaar, which roughly translates to spooner. We also got the East African crowned crane, crested guinea fowl, and blacksmith plover in view. And if you're more patient and you don't get screaming kids running into the aviary scaring them all off, you might also get to see some of these smaller, more colorful birds. These include the black-headed weaver, violet-backed starling, village weaver, and the suburb starling. As for the aviary itself, like with pretty much anything at this time, I love the lushness of it, but I also love this little water feature, making this area feel very nice and calm. At the Congo Square area, everything is also ready for the Zomer event. Off to the side is this little bar where you can get some fancy drink and some fish dishes. There's also these cool, comfy, hanging chairs, which of course get abused by children. And as is the case with the rest of the zoo, Congo Square has received some new planters and decorations. I love all these little yellow planks that they attach to all the tables. It's just such a small thing that brings so much extra to the area. Then you add the little plant pot to it and it's just a completely different vibe. Something new that can be found here as well is this big air cushion. The print of it used to be the flag of South Africa until it broke and remained broken for a very long time. But now it's back in this new style, which looks pretty freaking cool. The Congo restaurant has also reopened again, so I can finally get my favorite bara tandoori chicken sandwich and eat it indoors while enjoying a nice view of the hippo and lemurs. Now, since we've been talking about interactive education a lot this episode, I figured I'd also show the plastic soup education signs, which I don't think I've ever shown in action before. The first sign over here features a bunch of facts about the plastic soup, which are all obscured by pieces of plastic floating around, so you have to turn a wheel and move the facts around to reveal them. The second sign appears to be a little broken, which I've been told it does pretty easily, but the idea is that you have to pull this rope to remove the plastic and reveal the ocean underneath, and it should cost quite a lot of force to pull it to signify the amount of work it takes to remove the plastic soup. And releasing the rope should cause the plastic soup to come back to show you that you have to keep putting in work to make sure that the plastic soup doesn't reform. It's a shame that it breaks so easily because I really like the idea behind this one. The third sign has some tips on what you can do to reduce your contribution to the plastic soup, like recycling or buying products with less plastic. And the last sign is a photo frame where you can take a photo of yourself that you can share to show that you want to do something about the plastic soup. Now, with the mandatory walking route gone, the walk through lemur area has been freed up a little bit, including this ropes course, which I probably shouldn't have gone on while holding a camera. Oh boy, this is a problem. Oh, I almost fell. I must have looked stupid. To give you an idea what happened, I set up my camera for you, so enjoy.
Oh, het staat erop. Het staat erop.
Now there is a feeding presentation for the lemurs, but it starts at 11 a.m. and the zoo opens at 10. So you have 1 hour to get from the entrance to the other side of the zoo. It usually takes me about 2 hours to get there, but maybe next time I'll just straight beeline it to the lemurs to try and catch the feeding. The next indoor area we encounter here is the okapi stall. All the okapi are outside, but just to show you all, this is what the inside of their stall looks like. I really like how utilitarian it is. It almost feels like you're just getting a look behind the scenes. And I didn't really catch any footage of it, but recently they added Dik to the okapi habitat, so you can actually see some smaller little shelter things have been added. But yeah, I didn't really film them very well, so just take my word for it. And now we're gonna go straight to the final two indoor areas, the first being for the giraffes. Just like the okapi, the animals are all outside, but we're not here to see them, of course. So yeah, first up the giraffe stall, which again is pretty utilitarian. There is a large holding area for the entire tower of giraffes. Yes, apparently a group of giraffe is called a tower. And there's these two little separate holding areas for if a giraffe needs to be separated for whatever reason. There's also this TV screen, which I never noticed before, so I'm not sure if it's new or temporary, or I just didn't notice it, but it's pretty cool regardless. Stalls like these are often used to hide from the rain, so it's always nice if there's something to do inside. Right beside the giraffe stall we have the elephant stall, which features a small education corner about ivory or the white gold. And the stall itself is just a nice large area for elephants, separated from you by a nice little moat. From the viewing area you can actually also get a look into the actual backstage of the elephants as well, which is pretty cool. And there's a TV screen in here as well, though I've never seen it turn on. And there's this cool sign which tells you what an elephant gets to eat in a day here. And that concludes the final indoor area. We've seen them all. Going around the elephant stall you can get some glimpses into the backstage areas, but honestly you're far better off just searching for videos of them on the Beekse Bergen YouTube channel. They're not really shy about showing them at all. But going all the way around the back, there is one final new addition to the zoo. A whole new elephant stall has been added. So the bullpen you can see over here is a little bit smaller now to make room for this new stall. And the reason for the new stall is that our good friend Calimero, the biggest elephant in Europe, despite not nearly being too old to have young, has not really produced a single offspring since he arrived at the zoo. He seems to only mate with one of the females, and she is not actually capable of having offspring anymore, so it seems unlikely Calimero will have a child here, and therefore the zoo is hoping to receive a new elephant soon, a bull of course, so that they can start having babies, and the youngest elephant, Mediba, can finally stop drinking her mother's milk, which apparently elephants don't really stop doing until their mom gets a new baby, who then gets the milk instead. So how do I know all of this? Well, I attended the elephant feeding presentation, so the keeper was able to tell all of this there, all while giving the elephants some nice apples, of which they couldn't seem to get enough. In case you've never seen an elephant beg for food, this is how it goes here. Next to this part of the elephant habitat is also the final aviary, the wetland aviary, and this aviary is home to the hammerkop, African sacred ibis, black-crowned crane. There's also the yellow-billed stork, and this thing, which I think is a cattle egret, but I was going off of the app and this one isn't on there. And also according to the app there is a trumpeter hornbill and a crested guinea fowl, but I didn't see those in real life. The aviary itself has a little wading pond in the middle and a bunch of elevations for birds to fly to. Fun fact, the reason some feeding platforms are raised up from the ground is to keep ground-dwelling birds from eating from those. Another method they use to keep feeders separate is to put food in areas with very small openings, so that the larger birds can't get in. And of course that's all to make sure that every little bird gets their fill. But yeah, that's all the stuff I wanted to show you guys on the walking route. We're back at the Zomerfight entrance, and I met up with my family to go through the car safari. During the closures, the start of the car safari has been moved, so you now drive through the entirety of the savanna habitat, and almost right away you get to see the beauty of the car safari, which is just how close you can get up to these animals, allowing for some really great shots. After the first savanna habitat, we cross the new little bridge to get us over the walking route of the new black rhino area, and we get to see the African wild dogs. You don't actually get to drive through this habitat, you just kind of look into it, and in the past this habitat was exclusive to the car safari, but now with the new walking route you do walk past it as well. What's really cool here is that just like they do from the walking side, the wild dog and the rhino habitats just kind of seem to merge together. You almost can't see the moat and the fences that are between them, making it look like just one big space. And yeah, if you're lucky you might actually see the rhino from here too. We didn't, but that's fine. After the wild dogs you get to see the cheetah habitat, and they seem to have put up some extra signs warning people not to get out of their car here, because this is a habitat you get to go inside of, and it has happened in the past that people have gotten out. Now that's just natural selection at its finest, I would say, but here you're just among the cheetah, and that's pretty crazy. I can't even imagine that back in the day they would let you enter a lion habitat and things like that, but yeah, different times. Now from the cheetah pen over here you also get a bit of a different look onto the rhino field. And a nice little feature of this cheetah pen is this cool crashed plane, and you can't see it in my footage, but the plane actually has Save the Rhino written on it. Now, of course, Save the Rhino, as you might know, is a conservation charity that helps rhino in the wild, and this plane is a bit of an homage to the fact that they use planes and drones to track rhino in the wild. I've been told these drones were even tested here in the Beekse Bergen, so that's really cool. As we leave the cheetahs, we can have a look into some of these backstage roads before we cross this bridge, and I remember there being something really cool about this bridge, but I can't remember what it was exactly. Either the bridge came from a distant country, or it was used by the military in a war or something. I really can't remember, but anyway, after crossing the bridge we get to the European woods section of the car safari, where we can see the red deer, Highland cattle and the heck cattle. Habitat wise, this area is pretty simple. It was probably just a bit of a pre-existing forest that they put some fences in and paved the road through, but to be fair, that is kind of just the natural habitat of these animals. And then the next area we get into is the Asian woods, which has black buck, buntang, Pierre David's deer, Japanese sika deer, Persian fallow deer and the chital deer. So yeah, lots of deer. And habitat wise, this area is just pretty similar to the European woods. After the Asian woods, the forest opens up a bit and we are greeted by the camel plain, where we can find the Bactrian camel, Przewalski horse and the Japanese sika deer once again, because they can kind of just go through the fence and they walk around here as well. So yeah, this habitat is just one big open field with the occasional tree where the animals huddle for shade and cover from the rain. What's pretty interesting is that the Bactrian camel, not sure if this also holds true for the Przewalski's horse, but the camels here are so adjusted to all sorts of extreme weather from the Gobi Desert that they don't actually need an indoor stable like many other animals do. They can just be outside all year. We are entering the last section of the first half of the car safari, which is named Asian Woods 2. And here we find the nilgai and the Vietnamese sika deer. You can also see a lot of their stables here. And from here you can see some of the aviaries that house the birds featured in the Bird of Prey show. So that concludes the first half of the car safari and we arrive here at Congo. There is a big parking lot here, so if you want to take a break from the car safari, you can stop here, eat something at the Congo restaurant or take a walk around the zoo before continuing. We decided to continue right away though, so let's head to the woodland area, as it's called, which has the Sitatunga and the African forest buffalo. And now this habitat is also viewable from the walking safari, but of course if the animals decide to go into the back of this habitat, you don't really get to see them from there. And this habitat is absolutely huge. I don't think I've really stressed this yet, but all the car safari habitats are absolutely huge, which is one of the reasons I love this zoo so much. Just the amount of space they give to the animals is pretty unmatched by any other zoo. Now from the woodland area we enter the desert, which has the addax, the dromedary camel, ostriches and the Persian goitered gazelle, or the Persian black-tailed gazelle as they're also called. Now I didn't film this, but there is actually a lake in the middle of this habitat, but what we can see are some of these hills, which bring some nice terrain variation as well. The jeep you can see standing in the habitat used to be the jeep that was used to feed the lions. The keepers would drive around the habitat, lions running after them, giving the lions a bit of a workout, and then the keepers would throw the meat out of the window that the ostrich is currently sticking its head in. They stopped feeding the lions this way, so now this jeep is retired here as a little feeder for the ostriches, it seems. From this habitat you can also see some tents that are part of the safari resort. And you can have some neat looks into the backstage areas around the back of the Okapistol. Now next up are the lions, and I kind of spoiled earlier on that you don't actually get to drive through the lion enclosure anymore. Those days are far behind us. Now I was a little distracted here. I think there was a car parked weirdly or something like that, so I didn't actually record much of the enclosure. So here you have some older footage that I still had of the bus safari. So this is from quite a while ago, which is why it's suddenly winter now. But yeah, I love how, unless you're really looking for it, you don't immediately notice the fence that is down in the moat. So you got a pretty nice and clear view of the habitat and still get the feeling of driving through the habitat a little bit. But yeah, other than that, it's just the same habitat you also see from the walking route. So there's that. Now we're already driving into the final area of the car safari, the giraffe plain, and this is again the same enclosure you see from the walking safari, which has the Nubian giraffe, gravy zebra, sable antelope, impala, and from the car safari you also get a bit of a better look into the African buffalo enclosure as well. Now this habitat is definitely one of the highlights of the car safari in my opinion. In general, the giraffe are very curious about the cars and will get up really close, so you're really able to just take in how big these creatures are, and it's absolutely amazing. It's also a great social experiment. What do drivers do when there's a giraffe on the road? To make things even more interesting, giraffe also love licking cars. I didn't see them do it today, but it does happen a lot. I think it happens more during the winters when it's cold, because the cars are nice and hot, making them more attractive licking targets. But yeah, one thing's for sure, the giraffe always cause traffic jams here. But yeah, going through the plain, you get some really cool views of all these animals, and at the end of it you also get to see one of the big safari plains of the resort, and take that up close look of the buffalo I mentioned. Of course, you're still separated from the buffalo because you don't want an angry buffalo charging your car. Now as you drive back to the parking lot, you come across some of the backstage buildings of the zoo, but that is everything that concludes the car safari, so I hope you enjoyed that. So me and my family went through the zoo one last time and ended up making use of the extended summer opening times, which was really interesting. We saw the chimps and gorillas getting ready to sleep, for example. But we didn't really see much of the rest of the zoo because we decided to end our day at what used to be the safari restaurant, but has been overhauled into restaurant Waniyama. And for the duration of the summer event, you can actually make a reservation here for a 2-hour all-you-can-eat buffet with meat, fish and vegetarian food straight from the grill, which was all super tasty, and at 25 euros per person, it's actually quite affordable, especially for zoo standards, where it's not uncommon for things to be a little overpriced. But anyway, that was it. Ow, I bit my tongue. Anyway, that was it. That was the end of the day. It might be another while before we visit the Beekse Bergen again in this series, as there isn't that much left to see. I might do a mini episode on the boat safari and the remaining feeding presentations, so be on the lookout for that. Of course, with our Planet Zoo series, there never really be a shortage of Beekse Bergen content here, and it will be nice to see some other zoos as well. I'm not sure how many episodes I'll produce during the summer holiday, as I like to visit the zoos during the week when it's not too crowded, but of course during the summer break it's just always going to be crowded, so that's not really an option. I might use the summer to scout some zoos and come back to record the tours after the summer break. It all depends on what I can manage to do. We'll just have to wait and see. I was actually hoping to have another episode out by now from a different zoo already, but the plans I have for it aren't going as smoothly as I had hoped. Without giving too much away, I'm trying to involve another person into the video, but they are really busy at the moment, and I think it'd be a bit rude now to make an episode without them, since I've already asked them to be in it. If all goes well, the wait will be worth it, I hope. Just need to be a little patient. By the way, something you might have noticed in this video as well is that I got a new camera. For those interested, it is a Sony CX450, and I have to say it was a lot more comfortable to film with than my phone. It's a bit of a trade-off because my phone has crazy good stabilization, so the footage of this camera is a bit shakier. I just have really shaky hands, so I apologize for that, but the comfort of filming and the ability to zoom in up to 60 times using the camera's optical zoom definitely tips the skill in favor of the camera for me. I got a tripod the other day, so hopefully next episode at least the animal footage shouldn't be as shaky. The story behind the tripod is actually a pretty fun one as well, but we'll talk about that on a stream one day. Anyway, I'm just gonna leave you guys with some animal footage of all the visits I made to the zoo since the last episode that I haven't been able to use throughout the video. Hope you enjoy, and I'll see you guys in the next video, stream, or whatever comes first. Bye for now.